take minutes here?
I didn't hear that. My
Mike,
computer
are you
just telling
doing
me.
minutes for this meeting, please?
Yeah. Yes, I've got it covered. I'm all set.
Okay, great. All right. Well, let's start with just a moment of silence. Let us all bring our very best to the work we have before us. Take a minute. Thank you. We have an open session. And excuse me if I can't see everybody at once, but I know, Mary, you wanted to speak during open session, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Okay.
take a minute, take 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, what I'm wanting to speak about, this is like for me as a private citizen. And so I would like to say that Whatcom County's current ferry outage plan does not allow for a rapid deployment of a backup passenger-only service. The current plan seems to require lots of money and time to install temporary docks for the currently contracted passenger-only ferry to be able to transport people back and forth from the mainland to the island. This is just a rough estimate that I have made, but I would like to research this further. I estimate that the minimum time required to provide backup passenger-only service would be close to 24 hours. I really need to verify this with our ferry captain, Rich Hudson, and Public Works. I'm going to be investigating, getting an estimate of the monetary cost to do this, plus the cost of the passenger vessel contract. As a committee assignment for the new boat access committee, now called the Public Dock Committee, I spoke with Captain Rachel Rowe, the Ferry Operations Division Manager at Skagit County Public Works this morning to gather some information on what their backup vessel deployment timeframe was. She said that, of course, it is variable due to the type of outage, but their system shoots for a 2 to 3 hour time frame before passenger-only service is implemented. Planned ferry outages for dry dock or monthly inspections in Whatcom County are inconvenient, but with notice, islanders can usually adjust schedules. During dry dock, there's about a 6-hour window with no ferry service at both ends of dry dock, where temporary floats are installed and then removed. During the monthly inspections, there is no ferry service for 5 hours from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Usually this happens on a Wednesday, but not always. No passenger-only service is even considered for a planned outage because our passenger-only system takes so long to set up. It's not effective, and it's not doing anything for the people on Lummi Island. Besides the planned outages, as the ferry infrastructure ages, in spite of all of the scheduled inspections and maintenance shutdowns, there have also been an increasing number of randomly needed shutdowns for maintenance or other repairs of the dock mechanisms besides the random shutdowns for ferry mechanical issues. There are costs involved every time the ferry system shuts down for scheduled or unscheduled reasons. The ferry system loses revenue when the ferry isn't running. Islanders have to make alternate arrangements to get to work, to get their children to school or return them home from school afterwards. Appointments for mainland services like dentists, doctors, school, work, airline flights, pet care, a theater or concert or sporting event with non-refundable tickets, even a meal at a restaurant that you have to have reservations for months in advance might be missed. Many of these things might be able to be rescheduled, but in some cases, everyone just loses out and pays penalties for cancellations or changes. When my husband Jim and I were caught in the July 31st outage, when I was planning to drive him to the ER Our anticipated expenses were gas and a car and driver and a pedestrian punch, plus the medical. As it turned out, an aid car ride to the other side to the hospital and a taxi ride home were a little over $1,000. Fortunately, we have insurance, but I want the county and LIFAC to be aware of these costs. I also had 5 guests at my home that afternoon that needed to get back to their Bellingham hotels that evening because they had flights booked out of SeaTac Sunday morning. Thankfully, all of them were able to get off the island in a couple of private boats. For one of them, who was mobility impaired, climbing down the rock riprap was not an option. As it was she ended up getting rowed out in a rubber dinghy and then onto a moored boat off Isle Air Beach, which was quite a challenge in itself. If private boaters acting as good Samaritans had not been available that day, the cost of missed flights for just those 5 friends of mine would have amounted to around $2,000 more. I know for a fact that if a private boater had not been able to transport Jim to the other side, and we would have had to wait for the ferry to be repaired, his urgent need to get to the ER would have escalated to a life-threatening and probably would have resulted in a helicopter evac. Whatcom County ferry system needs a better backup plan to move all of its customers in event of a prolonged planned or unplanned outages now and in planning for the future. I would like to have LIFAC help the county realize and remember that the ferry is not a pleasure boat. It is a bridge or a lifeline between the mainland and Lummi Island. We need either a better backup plan or we need cooperation, not an adversarial relationship, to work together with the county and the island community to solve this problem. And I have emailed that to Mike, so that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well stated. And I hope that, Mike, you can email that to all the LIFAC members. Hello, Jim. Thank you.
Hi. I plugged the computer in, it decided to update, reboot, and everything else. And man, did I have a time getting on here.
And you're in color instead of in dark. We love it.
Can we take the document off the screen?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
trying
I
to
see.
do that.
What is this? Let's see.
It's public
I'm taking
comment.
it down. Just a second. Sorry.
Be emailing it to you, Jim.
Okay, that's
Are
fine.
there any other comments for this open session?
Yeah, yes, I would like to, if that's okay.
Say your name, please.
Mary Jane Van Hoosen,
Thank you.
MJ, y'all call me MJ.
And I'm sorry, can you speak up just a little, Mary Jane? Thank you.
I'll try. My issue is just because I know about maintenance, I'm interested in connecting with Richie and the county about how they do maintenance for the ferry. I have a couple of concerns about why the engine went out twice within a month time and some stuff like that. So Rich, you'll be hearing from me, honey.
Looking forward to it.
I know you do.
You can call anytime or email, whatever you
Thank
prefer.
you. Well,
we gonna
this will be email because I'll have a lot of questions.
Okay.
But I think that's really important that we as a group understand how the maintenance process goes. Do you have a planner? Do you know, how is that planning going on and all that kind of stuff? And for those of you who don't know me, my name is MJ, but maintenance is my game. So I know a little bit about it.
Mine
Okay,
too.
that's enough. Okay, bye.
Well, So you're going to have an offline discussion with Rich, correct?
Yeah, and see where we go with the county, because a lot of this has to do with the county, and maybe Roland, I don't know what your role is. And so we, kind of I want to understand how that goes, and maybe have to, I don't know who we have to talk to, but I'd like to understand how that, the maintenance is scheduled and planned and all that jazz. Okay.
Great.
You
I
know-
appreciate your sharing what expertise you might have with Rich. Any other comments during open session?
I'd like to make a comment. I can do it now, or I can do it when Rich gives his report, either way. But I do have something to add.
Sorry, who's speaking?
It's Judy.
Oh, Judy. Okay.
I'll wait till Rich gives his report.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else? Great.
No, but that letter, Mary, will be posted in the email for LIFAC, correct?
Yes, I've just sent it to Mike.
Great.
I'm gonna email it out, Judy, right after the meeting.
Yep, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I want to make sure that I have that.
Mike, you did receive it, correct? Because you were saying you were having trouble with it.
Hang on. I don't know. I can't tell yet.
Okay. All right. Well, you know who to go to if you didn't. All right. Thank you. Thank you for those
I have
comments
something,
during open
no,
session.
I don't have that yet.
You will dog that. I appreciate that. Moving on to internal business. We have some upcoming vacancies that Jill Nixon has given us a heads up about. Both Charles and I are going to term out in January, and Judy will have completed. And Judy, did you see that email I forwarded you? That
Briefly, yeah.
okay, you will have completed yours. So we are looking for some new members. We will have some vacancies, and I'm going to say this is really, really an important time for LIFAC to keep moving forward. We've done a lot of good work, and it's time to make sure the good work is continued. So start talking to your friends and neighbors, and on island and off island. Let's do this.
I invited 4 people tonight, none of whom are on the call, but we'll keep
I'm sorry,
pushing.
Mike, say that again, please.
I invited 4 persons to attend tonight to get a feel for the meeting, and none of them is on the call. So I will keep being persistent.
Well, we know you can be, so thank you for that, and we all need to be doing that because we know it's important for the work we've done to keep on moving here.
Rayma, I'd just like to underscore that I think that in a way we have an opportunity to reach out particularly to younger people to get more age diversity and more geographical diversity within the island. And I hope that everyone here tonight will think of several people that they encourage to apply to the county, for the county to consider them for the LIFAC. We're at a juncture here where we can't drop the ball by having basically 3 people left after January.
Charles, I think that's an excellent,
All right.
excellent comment, and I have talked to Leica about the same thing, that we need to have some younger people involved, and I think all of the organizations on the island need the same thing. So that's a great comment.
And
Richie, I
did-
have a yes or no question on this topic. Can a ferry crew member be part of LIFAC, or is that conflict of interest?
I don't think that'd be
Thank you.
I guess one other thought or question I have is I was kind of surprised to see the Grange reaching officers. And it seemed like even amongst non-Grange members, but using Brown Betty. Anyway, obviously there are a lot of positions on the island that need filling. And I was just surprised to see Brown Betty used with a special alert like that. So I'm wondering if there are any other ideas to take forward in terms of getting the word out that this is important work, other than it looks like we do have some new people joining our meeting today, and I'm excited about that. So it's a great place to start to see if the work meets your skill set, that you have something to bring to the party here. So we want to keep LIFAC away well and strong here.
Rayma, I'd like to ask Todd Donovan. Todd, do you have any comments on repopulating LIFAC?
I mean, I'm hearing people saying you want to get younger people on the committee, and that's always hard for a lot of our advisory groups. So I think ferry crew might be a really good idea. I heard that, but no, I mean, I don't have. We have a struggle with a lot of our boards and commissions trying to get people to participate. Actually, this one is one of the most engaged. But the way the ordinances are written, that you got to find people in particular slots makes it hard. And maybe somebody might want to revisit the categories of that, the ones that are harder to fill, and maybe we'd have to change by ordinance. The definitions of those to give you more flexibility about how you might be able to get folks signing up.
I see
Thank
a new
you.
patient here. Tim, welcome. So thanks for joining us here. So moving on, hybrid versus in-person format for this meeting. I am very glad that I'm able to have an online presence since I'm not back to the island in a timely way. But I know, Jim, you in particular were bringing up the idea of let's start back with maybe hybrid meetings. Is there any input at this point? I'll be honest, I don't know if the fire hall would be open for us to meet there again. And one of the reasons we have not met at the Grange is there used to be a fee involved. And any other ideas about if we were to meet in person, where that might be, that would also then allow for, I think, a hybrid option, which I think we need to continue here in the short term. Any thoughts?
So for me, I can't drive in the dark anymore. So this Zoom thing is fabulous. I know Billy is probably upset with me because I do join the most of the time the fire department meetings that are at night, but it's a big help for me to have a hybrid meeting if you were to continue to have a hybrid meeting. So.
I think we're all spoiled with it, actually. So, absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Rayma?
Any other comments? Yes, Mary.
I know it's not public input time, but you might approach LICA for a grant to cover the cost of renting the Grange for your meetings monthly. That might be something that, as an island organization, you might be able to apply for a LICA grant in December for next year. So that could possibly solve that.
Okay, great idea. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Oh.
Any other thoughts?
Are we still talking hybrids?
Hybrid
Sorry.
meeting. Bill Lee, is the fire hall available?
Oh, we're talking meeting.
I did get your question, Mike. Right
Is the
now,
fire hall available if we were to have a hybrid meeting and some people wanted to attend in
it
person?
is not. The commissioners are not able to have their meeting there. The
Thank
fire
you.
hall is not open for public use at this time. That's going to depend upon the course of the pandemic.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, any other comments?
I'd just like to comment that I think the COVID situation in our county continues to be very risky. And since we don't have an option on the table for a meeting in November, a physical place, I think we should continue with Zoom. And there are some people who wouldn't otherwise be able to attend. So I think we should just continue and then have it on the agenda for the November meeting and see what we can do.
Got it.
I agree with that. Need to make a motion on that, or are we just good with?
Don't need a motion, but I just would add that a hybrid meeting does not exclude anybody from Zoom. It just means that some persons who want to can attend in person.
Right. Mhm.
Okay, so is there a motion? Would somebody like to move?
Okay, I move that we continue for another month the use of Zoom for the LIFAC meetings, or until such time as some physical space becomes available and a hybrid option is therefore practical.
I'll second
Is
it.
there a second?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Sorry, that
second
was
it.
Judy?
Judy
yeah.
seconded.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss a little bit about this. I personally think that we really need to get back to meeting in person because, for example, I have things to show and to try to get this into a format that could be shown as far as there's a lot of pictures, a lot of designs and everything else. It's really hard to look at it and it's really hard to discuss it. We're going to be hitting an option, well, I can't say an option, but a time here where we're going to have to make some real difficult decisions. And I told Raymond about this later, and I don't think it's the time for me to talk about it, but later in the meeting, that we have found some information that is, I would almost call disturbing. And so I think this needs to be brought out and talked to people.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Jim. Any other comments for discussion? Okay. Let's vote. All in favor? Let me say aye.
Aye.
Charles's motion to, at least for one more month, do Zoom only and look for hybrid locations. That would be an option just to be discussed at the next meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm in favor. Are there, I can't see, I don't have.
Okay. Judy is in favor. I'm in favor. Raymond is in favor.
Okay, and Jim?
I'm not in favor.
Opposed?
Okay, well, the motion carries. All right, thank you. Let's move to old business. And Rich, I bet you've got a lot to share with us.
Yeah, I've got a bit. So I guess I'll start off by saying that as this pertains to dry dock, that all the prescribed work called out in the 2021 dry dock contract that was performed by Foss Shipyard was accomplished. However, we did add one work item, which was to, since we were having the rudders off, all the shafts out, we had the reduction gears, both reduction gears sent off to be rebuilt. Took that opportunity and followed the guidance from some folks at the shipyard that suggested that we do sort of this higher level of accuracy for alignment for our gear. So we took them up on that opportunity. They hired Columbia Sentinel, came in and they aligned everything, shot the alignments, and you might notice it's running smoother than it ever has. I mean, Jim, I think you'll appreciate this. On the number 2 end, we found that the engine was actually sitting an entire 3/4 of an inch too low, which once that transfers through to your reduction gears and out through your shafting, really wears on everything, in which we found in the shafts. When we pulled them out, looked at them, they had to be tuned up and remilled a bit, trued up. So now that everything's gone back together, I think everybody will notice it's running extremely smoothly. A lot of the vibrations that were sort of plaguing us for many years are virtually gone. So that was one bonus to dry dock. However, because that took extra time to have that work performed, that's one of the reasons we got delayed just a little bit and coming back that day late. However, since our goal is to continue to be fiscally responsible in the way we do our maintenance, we've decided to align ourselves with the Coast Guard, their scheduled inspections, which means, you know, we're going to be hauling the Whatcom Chief out instead of every year, more like every other year, which saves a lot of money. But to be able to do that and do it responsibly, we got to make sure, you know, that all of everything from our wheels and our rudders all the way back to our engines are aligned and running smoothly. So there was that added work that I wanted to mention. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yes, I do. Thank you for telling us that 3/4 of an inch can make an enormous amount of difference. But I'm struck by your comment about the Coast Guard. Is this new, or how did this come that they determine? Are these things related? That is, lining up the shafts and the Coast Guard allowing us to go to every other year dry dock, or are these two unrelated?
That's a great question, Charles. So the best way I can answer that question is that I think my predecessors, in an effort to ensure the Whatcom Chief was getting as much and as good a care as possible, Whatcom County elected for years to actually have the boat hauled out every single year, pressure washed, painted, and then also because there was some systems that were deleted, again, probably 25, 30 years ago, that have to do with cooling our bearings and supplying fresh seawater out to our shafting areas. So because those systems have been deleted many, many years ago, there'd be a lot of this growth and like sea growth that would grow in our shaft alleyways, our bearings that our shafts rely on to stay true. They would get worn really badly because of this and not cooled properly. So they were wearing out. And, once I started wrapping my head around all of that and had further conversations with Elizabeth Cosa about it, we realized there was a big opportunity to be gained and sort of installing some systems that better take care of our boat, and then aligning our maintenance with Coast Guard regulations that already existed. Just to answer your questions, the Coast Guard has never asked us to come out of the water every year. It's only every other year. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, related follow-on question. You talked a meeting or two ago about changing to spring dry dock. And of course, the every other year will be welcome news to everyone. And I don't know whether this is the time you want to talk about this or save this for another moment.
It's coming in just a moment. But to be clear, just to be clear, there will still be a yearly maintenance period that still requires the Whatcom Chief to go away. It's just that every other year of that will actually, the Coast Guard requires us to come up on a dry dock. And that is time consuming and costs a lot of money. So that doesn't mean that we can't start figuring out how to sort of abbreviate every other year pier side maintenance. But we'll still be going out of service once a year for sure, for a period of time.
So Richie, I just want to see if I have this straight. What you're saying is that an annual maintenance is required, but hauling out of the water and actually going up on dry dock is only an every other year item now.
That's correct, Judy.
Okay.
But would the time away be the same or be less in alternate years?
It depends on what's being prescribed and recommended for maintenance. I mean, for instance, what I'm about to get into is what we're going to be doing in the spring is we will be doing the pier side spring maintenance, and we're hoping that spring side pier maintenance, because we've already just come out of a really big maintenance period, it'll be very abbreviated, like about a week, to get some work done, do engine tune-ups and whatnot, and some other work that has been called out and then back into service. So, but you know, again, then you know, the year after that, or the next dry docking, we may need to, you know, replace our main engines, and that takes a lot of time. It's better for it to be up on dry dock when that's happening, for some reasons. At any rate, it's kind of a little bit of a puzzle that we have to continue to fit together, and it's going really well, in my opinion, so far.
Okay, well, the concern I'm reflecting is an islander who was very worried about changing, before I knew all that you just told us, changing the quote annual dry dock to the spring because of perhaps worse weather in the spring and maybe even higher costs. But now you've made it a little more complicated, although you're clear in your complications. So,
yeah, and so I saw the email that you're referring to,
Yeah.
and one, we've done outreach with other shipyards to see if there's going to be a cost difference in any of their bidding process, and we've been assured that there isn't. We've also reached out to other vessel operators. They say they don't see any difference between springtime and, you know, fall time dry docking. So that made us feel pretty good. We also discovered that the gentleman that Drew Schmidt, who owns the Salish Sea, who provides us passenger vessel service, has said he would greatly prefer spring over fall, just because it's so much easier on his vessel, and that also the weather is much better. And when we say weather, what I'm referring to is wind and waves. Yeah, it might be a little bit more rainy, but that doesn't have nearly the impact safety wise as you know, turbulent seas. And I think the salient point I want to make about Drew and the Salish Sea is that he has offered us the exact same rate, regardless if we change to spring, because it will be a benefit to him.
right. Okay, that's very comprehensive. Thank you.
Any other questions about what I've covered so far?
Can outsiders just step in?
Hey, Rich?
Yes, ma'am.
So this might be a good time for me to add in what I wanted to comment about, and that's just it might be for Roland too, but something that I noticed when we had the extended outage for this dry dock, there was very little communication coming from the county as normally happens over the weekend, and I just feel like a lot of people were left scratching their heads, trying to figure out what was happening. And I think that during Monday to Friday, communication is just great coming out of the county, but it really seemed like it kind of dropped off. And I just wonder if there's a way to cover that in the future. Should that?
There is. That was also noted by myself and Whatcom County, as well as others. And yeah, that has been addressed, Judy.
Okay. Okay.
So thanks for bringing it up.
Great. All right.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Anything
Sure.
else? Any other
Colleen?
questions or comments on dry dock then?
Oh, I have one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Colleen.
Oh,
I
well, Colleen, usually, okay, go ahead. Usually,
I don't know how to behave. So do I wait till the end?
no,
I'd be
you
happy to do
actually,
that.
usually any comments would be by non-committee members would be made at the beginning of the meeting during open session, but I'm thrilled to have you. Go ahead, throw your comment out.
I'll be very, very brief.
For you, one time only. Go for it.
I'll never do it again. I promise.
Go
I
for
just
it.
wanted to add to Richie's comments on the dry dock vote that I ran on Nextdoor. And we had 248 people that responded to the question about preference for fall or spring. And 65% of those were for spring dry dock and 35 for the fall dry dock like we have. So it was 161 for and 86 against. And I really shouldn't say against. It's people that had any concerns about weather or whatever could not elaborate on their votes one way or the other. So anyway, that's just some information that
Perfect. I bet Rich wants to hear that. So thanks for chiming in. Okay.
Nice.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Colleen. It just to be clear, I think it would be really nice for, I don't know, some maybe in the newsletter or something, just to make sure we get it out there that this isn't a springtime maintenance period isn't something that we've done just firing from the hip. It's something that we've had a lot of conversations about internally and also with the Lemming Island Ferry Advisory Committee. And at any rate, I just want to make sure that that's understood. When I read the letter that Charles is referring to, I thought, oh no, maybe folks just think that because of this one bad winter that we experienced, that we're just deciding to, on a whim, change everything. When the reality is this has been in the works for quite some time.
Could you just clarify, Rich? So the spring would be 1 week, or I mean, so when people read our minutes, we'll go through. We LIFAC members will go through and make sure the minutes are clear on this. But just this one point, spring would be how many days, and fall would be.
If you would allow me, let me sort of explain how all of a sudden we've gotten to just discussing a springtime maintenance period to me showing up in a public meeting and stating that absolutely it's going to be in the spring without what people may feel like is some better community outreach. And so what occurred the last week of dry dock, so I guess I should back up just a little bit. Every 5 years, the Whatcom chief goes through what's called the 5-year COI that's administered by the United States Coast Guard. We have regular scheduled inspections with the United States Coast Guard that are intervals every other year or so for certain things. Every year we have a safety inspection. At any rate, when you have this 5-year COI qualification, I mean, you get like a lot of Coast Guard officers on your boat, many, sometimes several times a day, and they crawl over everything, and that's just what they do. They do it every 5 years. At any rate, everything was going really well until one young Coast Guard officer, I think he's probably about 20 years old, came on the very last week of dry dock. I think it might have been a Tuesday. And he just arbitrarily sort of asked for a hose test of our midship hatches. So there's 4 hatches that each access this really giant void space. And there's no equipment in these spaces. They're just simply there for flotation and collision protection and those sorts of things. But at any rate, he asked for this hose test. And so, we all kind of snickered because we had just replaced all the gaskets and done all this beautiful maintenance to these hatches. And so what it looks like is one Coast Guard officer opens a hatch and goes in the void space. A crew member closes the hatch and then locks him in there. And then the other Coast Guard guy grabs a hose and just like runs around with a garden hose. Well, much to our chagrin, the Coast Guard officer came out soaking wet. So the hatch seal did not do what it was supposed to. And we found out on not only that hatch, but on the other midship hatches all failed as well. We were really taken aback because every time we open those hatches for any sort of maintenance, whether it's at a dry dock or pierside maintenance, it's dry as a bone in there other than maybe a little condensation that collects at the bottom. So, we were kind of blown away by it. And the Coast Guard says, these all have to seal properly before you go home. The shipyard tried to get them sealed properly. My own crew members tried to get them to seal properly by thicker gaskets. We even tried to do a little welding. Nothing worked. The Coast Guard said, well, you're not going to go back into service. You need to crop these hatches out and get them operating properly. Replace the hatches, basically. That became our only option. That would have taken about 2 more weeks or 10 days of being down there, which would have put us behind by at least a week and a half to coming home. I had a pretty spicy conversation with a few Coast Guard officers, and what was I don't want to say agreed upon because it's the Coast Guard and they don't really like to negotiate. But what I was able to give them was the history of the hatches since they were installed by my predecessor. And my predecessor said, oh yeah, those hatches leaked since the day we put them in 10 years ago. But they had always used silicone to seal and glue the hatches down. And so we just assumed that was a backup to the new regular hatch seals that went in every year. So we continued that practice. And the reality is that practice of just sealing them with silicone and tightening them down kept all the water out. So I was able to give the Coast Guard that history, and then they were able to relent a bit and say, okay, tell you what, if you can come out in the spring, we'll let you go home. And so our options were either, stay maybe up to 2 weeks past our dry dock departure time, or agree to a springtime maintenance. So we agreed to a springtime maintenance. That springtime maintenance, that work has to be performed on those hatches by June 1st. So the good news is we're going to be doing about a 1 week to 10-day pier side maintenance, do a little engine work, refresh some of the systems like we normally do, crop out the hatches, replace them, get them inspected, and they'll be out of there. And so the good news is springtime dry dock, a week or 10 days long, and home before Memorial Day week. So that's
that will be replacing those hatches in their entirety.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for this detail. Quite amazing.
Okay, Rich, does that cover dry dock? That's quite a bit.
So. Sorry, that was a lot. I talked a lot. I'm sorry.
No, that was very informative. Thank you.
It was.
Particularly the silicon.
This was probably the longest dry dock. Is it the longest dry dock ever?
It seemed like it.
May I address some of the things I observed in the island?
About dry dock?
Yes.
Okay, yes, Jim.
I have never in my entire life seen the traffic on Lummi Island in dry dock as this year. It seemed like everybody must have laid in a ton of gasoline because cars were constantly moving almost to the rate of non-dry dock. And looking at who was driving around, I didn't recognize a lot of them. And what is becoming to me quite obvious is this place is really growing.
Sorry, say that again. This place is what?
The number of people living on Lummi Island is really growing. And in the few times I rode the passenger boat, I tended to stay home the whole time, as most of it. I was working in the building. But one night I took a ride on the boat, and the only people I recognized were the crew. And these people that were on there did not look like they were transients. They looked like they lived here. So it's my opinion that we're going to see a huge bump in census.
Fare box recovery.
Well, not only fare box recovery, but a huge bump in people living here, in the amount of people who are actually going to be living here every day. And I know 4 of them, myself, and I don't get around much. So I think that we've got to be, this will come up in the next part here, but it was really shocking to me, the amount of traffic I saw on the island. I know somebody must have had an awful lot of 5-gallon cans.
These are extraordinary times, but thank you for making that point. I appreciate that, Jim. Okay, can we move on to the Santa Can situation? How did it make it through dry dock, Rich? Is it going to continue?
It is, yeah. It got some heavy use, but I think things have settled down a little bit. And I think, we actually, there's a budget supplemental that Randy is going to be putting forth to the county council, requesting funds to keep that can there, at least for the duration of this year. So that's good news.
So it's not in the existing budget, it would be an increase in funding. Okay.
That's.
And when will that be presented? Is it on the
Uh,
county council schedule?
I don't have that information available. Roland, do you know that answer?
No, I don't. I'm not sure when it's gonna be put forth as a, I'm sure it's going as a supplement.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any comments on that? I think that sounds like good news to me. Okay, next item. Oh, wait. Oh, the weather station. Yep.
No movement on that I'm aware of. I know that I was CC'd an email that Northwest Clean Air was proposing to donate up to $5,000 if we can, if there's, I don't know where the rest of the funding is going to come from. It's not part of the public works plan at this time. That's about all I've got on that.
We've run into a glitch. Hello?
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, I spoke to Liz and we went through county legal. And it's very iffy whether, well, let me put it this way. She came back to me with it. The county can do nothing except give us the space and help us erect it. That's all they're allowed to do, unless it's a grant. So we've got to weave our way through how to finesse that offer
What's
from
the balance that we look for? What would be the other funds if there's a possibility of 5,000 from Northwest?
Well, the unit we're looking at is roughly 10.
Okay.
If I heard you correctly.
10 total, 10,000 total for this. Okay.
Yes.
I'm on the Northwest Clean Air Board, and I'm pretty sure we approved whatever the request amount was. So I don't know if that helps with getting the rest of it, but.
The council did, Todd?
No, the Northwest Clean Air Agency Board.
Yeah.
I'm on that, and we have a meeting tomorrow at 1:30. I'll check about that. But I think Mark Burford made a request, the director, and I'm pretty sure the board approved it. But I don't know what the county's. That's putting on a different hat.
Right.
Where the county is on this, if there's been a request to the county. So, but I'm pretty sure the air agency did sign off.
And so.
Okay, so I'm the whiner that wanted that thing up there. And it cannot cost $10,000 or whatever. I mean, I've done it before. And
Okay.
so I don't understand what's going on. So if somebody could help me, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. So
The main point I
you
wanted to make is that the first attempt to cover whatever cost for whatever unit was going to be to find, and I'll use the word loosely, sponsors, but companies or organizations like the Clean Air Group. And the feedback we got is that's not allowed legally. So
Initially, Richie had said we just needed a computer. Is that not right?
Sorry, say that again, MJ.
Initially, didn't you just say we just needed a computer because that computer died, that laptop died?
Yeah, and then I do believe that there was at some point in time a path that was gone down by I think John Mulhern and maybe a couple others, and I may have this a little back to front, but I think part of the reason we were able to get some funds from Northwest Clean Air is because the quality level of the weather station would also allow them to have some equipment of their own on there too.
It's a benefit to the air agency to have that.
And that's all very cool. It's just like, wow, this is taking a long time.
So Mike, are you the lead on this project, or who is the lead? Who's going to bring us the report next month?
John Mulhern's the lead, and in LIFAC, it's not a LIFAC initiative.
I'm sorry, say that again.
John Mulhern is the lead for the county and the crew. It is not a LIFAC initiative. I'm only acting on behalf of, as an individual, on behalf of public.
Does it make sense to ask him to give us an update at our next meeting? Okay.
I can ask John for that, certainly, Rayma.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Because it sounds like there's some energy. It sounds like there's some funds. Let's make it happen and let's be organized about it. So, okay, appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, emergency. No, wait. Yeah, emergency outage planning. That was kind of referred to by Mary Ross, and my understanding is LIFAC does have a subcommittee that is looking at public dock space on the island. And I'm sure from an emergency outage planning standpoint, in terms of what is the emergency procedure for outages, that LIFAC needs to be involved, but I don't know that I am encouraged that LICA is leading the charge on coming up with other solutions because we have limited means here through Public Works, correct? Rich, do you have some input on that? Next steps?
I mean, yeah, no, what I can update you on as far as the emergency outage planning is what we have obligated ourselves to do, which is, and then when the new vessel shows up, to have in place in those vessel terminals a floating dock that you can easily lower and retract when you need to in an emergency or when we're doing vessel maintenance, anytime the primary ferry won't be providing that service. And that is what we are committed to and what we're currently pursuing.
What about in the meantime? I mean, the new ferry is scheduled for 5 years from now.
The meantime schedule or the meantime response is what it's been for, 50 years or 40 years or 30 years, whatever it's been for the lifetime of the vessel, which is we've got a contracted passenger vessel that can come at a moment's notice. However, it does take some time to get the floats into the water. I mean, depending on the tide and the height of the tide, we could have passenger vessel service up and going within about 6 to 8 hours currently. And for that to occur, we'd need
6 to 8 hours.
Correct. And currently we would need at least a +4 tide height to make that happen. And that's because you need at least a +4 tide height to get the floats into the water on Gooseberry Point.
But I think the presentation that Mary made also referred to these, shall we say, unplanned or spontaneous. And, when suddenly the ramp doesn't work or, the rudder goes bad or something like that. And it ends up sort of being, and then suddenly everything's up in the air. And I know you guys are trying to cope with it and you've done magnificently, but is there anything you can offer from what we may have learned from the last few months?
Yeah, I mean, what I can say is the outages that have that plagued us for those long-term outages, which were up to, I think, 8 hours, 6-8 hours, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
Those were based on the rudder feedback units for our steering system.
Right.
So what we've done is we've refreshed the cabling to those systems. We've also made the decision to every maintenance period, we're just going to swap them out brand new. And that should take care of that sort of issue that's plagued us currently. That's what we're doing to correct that. I would say also, regardless if it's Rachel Rowe or myself or any other ferry operator in the United States, if you've got a single vehicle ferry that you're using to provide service, there's going to be unscheduled outages and breakdowns. And depending on what that is and how quickly it's diagnosed, that dictates the correct response, right? So
Right.
like had we learned, okay, this this outage that's occurred because of the steering, this isn't going to be fixed in 8 hours. This is going to be more like 12, 15 hours. People aren't going to be able to get to work on Monday morning. I mean, I had a lot of conversations with our public works director of like, you know, when are we gonna do it? When are we gonna call it? And we haven't had to, because we are able to get the boat up and running in about the same amount of time as it would take to get the floats launched and the passenger vessel coming. And then as far as the docks go, you're also looking at, you know, depending on what the dock ailment is. Are you going to put are we going to need to put the gangways in? Because then that takes a larger crew and more equipment. There's just a lot of variables depending on the symptoms.
Right. Thank you. You're very clear.
And yeah, thank you for addressing it as best you can, Rich, at this point. And I applaud the whole effort to say, what else does the island need, and how can we meet those needs? And I want LIFAC to be able to work with those initiatives as much as possible. So thank you for that. Anything else, Rich, before we move on?
I have a question for Rich, please.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Hey, Rich, last night, I'm just giving a frame of reference, but I was on the fire commissioners meeting, and the chief gave a report on the status of all the, I'll just say the team on their vaccinations, and it was 100%. I just wonder if you have a similar report that you could offer us on, you know, compliance with vaccination requirements.
That's an excellent question. I would say this: I don't ask the medical history of anybody on my crew. However, a lot of the crew shares their medical history with me. And so based on that information, I can tell you that I would say 99% of our crew is fully vaccinated.
Related to that, there's been in the news the last couple of days over 120 ferry route stoppages in the state system. Have we heard anything about, you know, anything that would hint at that with the representatives for our ferry crew?
I'm sorry. So could you rephrase your question? I'm not sure what you're asking.
In the state one day, a few days ago, there were more than 120 routes canceled that didn't operate because people refused to report to work. I just wondered if we've had anything in the wind about that in terms of our county-owned crew.
No, not at all. I mean, I do believe that there currently is no vaccine mandate on Whatcom County Public Works employees. I don't know. Well, I would say this: even if that did occur, we still have 99% of our employees vaccinated, so there won't be any service delays or anything like that. That's a great question, though. A good point.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay, can we move forward to Roland and your report on the replacement ferry project? And
Oh, Rayma, I've got one question or one thing I'd like to add really quick.
sure.
I've actually looked, I've been talking to Roland and I've got to see his face for so long today already, like a couple of hours or more. And I love him dearly. But I've been through all of this information with him already today. And it's my daughter's 11th birthday tomorrow. So I'm going to respectfully excuse myself from this evening's meeting. I wish you all the best and thank you very much.
Thank
Roland.
you, Rich. Thank you.
Your detailed report
Hey,
tonight.
Richie, we'll talk soon.
Yes, ma'am.
How'd that happen?
See you, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Roland.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'll tell her.
11. I
Yeah.
can't believe that.
I know, me either.
Crazy.
It's great.
Thanks,
Okay,
you guys.
Roland,
Bye-bye.
take it away.
So I'll
Bye.
make a quick comment from that last question. The ferry division is the only one that is at full capacity right now. And that is not because of vaccines or mandates or anything else. We're still down several engineers. And we're still down, I think, 11 truck drivers. And so you may have seen information go out with regard to our snow plowing capacity coming up. We've checked with all the local contractors, and they just kind of snicker and go, yeah, no, we've got nobody, sorry. So if you are a planning type person, it's coming winter, plan for it, please. We normally have 52 shifts for snowplow. We have 27 people available for those 52 shifts. So those are real things, and I can't urge you enough to make sure you have enough supplies. We will be plowing, hopefully, at least the primary routes, which are the major arterials. But if we have a snowfall like we had in the early 90s that lasts for 3 weeks and it's 2.5 feet deep, we're going to really struggle to even make the primary roads. And that's just the reality of the situation. We've never experienced anything like this. And quite frankly, I've even tried to convince my son to climb back into a rig and get his CDL again, and just to come work for the county. But at any rate, the ferry, on the other hand, is fully staffed, and Rich is enjoying being the only division manager that can say that. So let's see, I'm looking at the shore power study resolution. Yeah, I have a specific request from the director and the deputy executive. Before taking this to council, this is a very important element. I have championed and pushed hard on our end. And the request is for Charles or some other member of LIFAC to meet with the deputy executive and talk about the other efforts that's going on and how this study would fit within all those different efforts. And that's what I was given. I don't know exactly what that means, but the request from me is, actually my direction has been given to not take that to the council right now until it can be coordinated with a group of other things. So the answer wasn't no, it was just let's do this so it all goes together well. I kind of likened it to there's spinning cogs out there, and we're going to throw something in the middle of it. We don't want those spinning cogs to grind this up because it's too important. So I'll leave that up to LIFAC, how you would like to handle that. My recommendation would be for Charles to meet with Tyler Schroeder and John Hutchings, since you seem to be the most knowledgeable on the subject. But I will leave that up to you. But that's the status of it right now, is a request from the executive's office to meet with you. You are a board or an advisory committee of the county council, and so you take your direction from them, but that is Public Works request of you.
Well, Charles.
Yeah, well, Roland, could you give us a little more insight? First of all, thank you for your report. And secondly, obviously, this is something that is passed by LIFAC. It's not just me. And could you give us, though, an idea of what you mean by coordination, or what else? What are these spinning wheels?
Councilman Donovan, did you have something to add?
No, I was just stretching, but my guess is some of that might be, the uncertainty about the infrastructure bill that's not passed yet. Because this is going to cost money. Who's going to pay for it? But Roland, I'll just say this: if we're going to send a motion to the council to ask the executive to do something, and the executive is asking us to do something before we do that, there's not really a point of sending to the council.
That was kind of the point that John was making to me, because the executive is going to just stand there in front of the council and go, hey, hang on a minute, give me another couple of months while we work out this. I don't know if it has anything to do with the climate committee or the new position that is being, the job descriptions being discussed right now. To be honest with you, Charles, I don't know. I have not been involved with that at all. It's a completely different section of Public Works. And I have not been at all involved with it whatsoever, other than some of the science issues being a geologist. But so that was the direction I got from John Hutchings to someone from LIFAC to talk to the deputy executive, Tyler Short.
Okay,
Sorry,
So-
somebody else speaking.
thank you.
It sounds like a
I'd be
great
happy to meet, but I think that I would like to be joined by other people, or at least another person from LIFAC. So, Rayma, what do you think?
If that's helpful, I'd be happy to. Is there somebody else who would be interested in getting more involved in this project, in this shore power initiative? Either
Or-
Jim or Judy?
Judy?
I don't have time,
Mike?
I'm sorry. I don't have
Let
time.
me know if you want me to sit in.
Okay, great.
I'm happy to help if you want a sidekick.
Okay, fine. And Todd, thank you for that offer. Why don't Rayma and I figure this out and get back to you, Roland and Todd? On this, I presume this would be a Zoom meeting. Is that how these things are done?
Potentially, they can do either way. I've been doing Zoom and in person with the executive,
Uh-huh,
the deputy executive. Both of these.
Yeah, our large conference room on the garden room on the, right on the street is now available for meetings, and it's, you can have plenty of space in there. So that might be
okay,
available.
okay, fine. Thank you.
And
And
I can't.
Roland,
uh,
would you be taking this back and setting up a meeting time? And I say that because I know I need to be out of town here in the near future.
Yeah, we can start discussing that, and then I'll, I can't make a meeting for the executive's office, but I can certainly put some pressure that direction. And the fact, if I may, I don't want to step over anyone's bounds here. But if I can let them know that Councilman Donovan will be in attendance, that might heighten the need, as it were.
That's fine.
You give me a little too much clout there, Roland. I don't know.
Love it.
No, go ahead and propose some times, and then we'll make it happen sooner rather than later, before our next meeting, I hope.
Okay, I have it on my to-do list.
And when we come back to the resolution, the one, if this went to council right now the way it is, I could anticipate questions. That I've been through the whole thing about how the shore power is inadequate and the distance is an issue in terms of the boat being able to work as fully electric. Nobody else knows that, and I can barely convey that. So that, at some point we might want to figure out how to say, and why would it just be doing the microgrid on the island versus rather than just pumping up the cable going out to the other side. So that's kind of stuff we can get to later, but those will be, I'm just anticipating the questions that council would have. So
Right. Okay, I agree. Those are, in fact, the reasons for the study, to answer those questions, because nobody knows the answers, at least so far as I know.
But, there's also some very basics that a lot of people aren't aware of, and that's the fact that to get a full charge overnight, the ferry needs to be on the island side, and that answers, that lays some of the important groundwork, is what I would say.
there's stuff, I think there's some very basic things like that could be explained, maybe not in the resolution, but when it comes forward.
Sure.
The basic physics of how this stuff works.
Well, let's make that happen. And Todd, thank you for being part of it. Thank you. Okay.
Moving on to the County Road Administration Board grants. I discussed with Steve Johnson, with the crowd board, what was moving forward. was asked by the executive's office to put together a brief for the lobbyists down in Olympia that will be following this effort through, and found out which part of the budget it'll be in, and that sort of thing. And then had the opportunity just to talk to them about it. And nothing, and I mean nothing is ever slam dunk in Olympia, but we've got a 90% chance that this will move forward. The only way it's not going to move forward is if they deny everything. So we anticipate having the application, the CRAB application in about 3 weeks. So the first or second week of November, we want to make sure it's well in before Thanksgiving or the holidays. We just spoke with KPFF, who's working on the application, and it's very good. And we're all on board, on schedule for that. And remember, it's not $10 million handed to us. It's 500,000 over 20 years. So their commitment isn't taking a lot out of the budget. They spend more money on paper than they would spend sending us. So that's one of the reasons why they aren't too concerned about moving forward in a positive way. Having said that, we're going to make sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and every small J is dotted as well. So we've gone through all of that 3 or 4 times, and continue to do that. The RAISE grant, I think, is the next thing on the topic, which the RAISE grant is now what the build grant used to be. And the letter to Secretary Buttigieg went out, physically sent it to Secretary Buttigieg. And I tried to get in contact with Congresswoman Del Benny's office, and after several attempts, I contacted the county executive, and I said, I'm not getting a call back. After nearly 3 weeks of trying to get in contact with them, I never got a call back. So the executive called down there, and then finally someone called me back and essentially said that Congresswoman Del Benny is very busy. If you send the letter, we'll just make note of it, and hopefully we can move forward with some helping with that in some manner. Having worked with Congressman Larson, and since many of the islanders work in his district, even though Lummi Island is outside, I called Congressman Larson's district, left a message, and that evening, a staff member from DC called me at home. And it was late DC time, and it was evening my time, and I picked up the phone wondering who, figuring it was a spam call, someone trying to get me additional warranty on my vehicle or something. And it was Congressman Larson's DC office. And the person I talked to is the person that's involved with transportation issues for Congressman Larson, very well aware of the ferry situation in Washington State, and very well aware of Lummi Island, even though he's not been to Lummi Island. Talking with the congressman enough to know that it's an issue. The fact that 2 of the current congressional mapping people looking at the new district would put Lummi Island back into Rick Larson's district might have something to do with that. But at any rate, I'll let the political commentary move along. So what I got from him was a little surprising. And I said, well, the island community signed this letter, and I sent it off, and I sent a copy, and I'll send a copy, scanned copy. And he said, please do, because I want a copy so that I can make sure that my contacts with the transportation department, so I get those over to the secretary's office through the staff level. Congressman Larson would like to have a copy in his portfolio, so that when he runs into the secretary, he can mention it. And secondly, it's not advertised, although this is a open meeting, and I'll go ahead and say it anyways. They're not going to advertise the trip. Congressman Larson has invited Secretary Buttigieg out here to visit the second district. And even though Lummi Island is outside the second district, it's now on their list of places to see. So we're hoping that that's going to happen before he makes the decision on the raise grants next month. But it could be later than next month. So the raise grants, there's no deadline for them to go out. They really try to get them up for the end of the year, but it could be in December before the information has come out. So saying all of that, I believe you all sent a letter to Secretary Buttigieg as well, inviting him to Lummi Island. Is that correct?
Yes, we did.
Perfect timing, honestly, with that. And so since then, 2 other staff members from Congressman Larson's office has called me. I've sent copies of the letter to them, gave them an update on where in our website you can find the level of service work that's been done, the design work that's been done, all the work from LIFAC has worked on. And so they've really come up to speed on the ask. So having said all that, you know, we were 70-30. Now I think we're at 75-80% positive. And I'm not a real good bookie, so don't bet on any of that I say. But it is, quite frankly, I've never experienced good news out of DC before, and so this is kind of you know, awe-inspiring, as it were. So we will move on with continuing to address those issues. We have the Association of Counties is aware of the ask. They have people back there in DC. The Executive's office continues to do that. That's, you know, really the report. It's all pretty good news. And anytime anything comes up, we'll stay on top of it. And as soon as we hear anything more, we'll let you know.
Roland, Roland, can you just clarify the letter you're talking about is which letter? It's not our letter, it's another letter, or just clarify that.
At the farmer's market.
Oh, okay, farmer's market letter. Okay.
177 people from the community signed a letter. I think it's 5 or 6 pages long. So that was sent to Secretary Buttigieg. It's been scanned and sent to Del Benny's office and Larson's office, and I was asked to do it the first part of November, to send it to both the senators as well. So we'll be doing that here. I'll probably just do it next week.
Okay. Mike.
Roland, can I reach you tomorrow? I need some where you sent that stuff to Larson, because I got no response from anyone over the last 2 weeks. None of them. The senators or the representatives, and I've left multiple messages. I'd like to get this in the hands of Congressman Larson. The letter to Secretary Buttigieg that LICA sent inviting him to the island. I want to get that in their hands.
LIFAC.
I don't know where to send it.
The LIFAC
Okay.
letter, right?
Yeah, I'm in the field all day tomorrow, so Friday.
Friday works.
Okay,
Yeah.
but Mike, you've sent the original letter by
The
registry.
original letter went out yesterday, or Tuesday, rather. I don't know what today is. I've lost track of time, but it went out, you know, the day after the federal holiday.
Okay.
Airmail special delivery, but I have no indication. Some person in DC told me to put attention, something that meant to this directly to the Secretary of Transportation's office. But I'd really like to get it in the hands of Congressman Larson. He's on the Transportation Committee. Get it in his hands and in his file. Just the way you described the you know, the market letter. I'd like to have that same thing happen with our invitation.
You know, you can always forward it to me and I can send it through channels as well. So
I'll do
if you'd
that.
like,
I'll do that first thing.
I can do that on Friday when I'm back in the office.
Good, thank you.
Let's see. I think that's about it. Does anyone have any questions of these?
I think Jim had a question on the replacement ferry project. Jim, did you have a question?
Well, it wasn't exactly a question. Bill Fox went to the state of Texas, asked for a Freedom of Information Act about the Texas state ferries from Galveston, 28 car ferries. They responded with a complete set of drawings, design drawings, which we did not expect. All we wanted was some profile. What we found out in that is that the design of the Texas ferry and the bottom design, the hull design of this one are almost identical. So the ferry for Lummi Island is not a new design. It is a design they pulled out, dusted off, and changed a little bit. The other thing we found out, and this was that the diesel boat was burned out 180 gallons a day, working an 18-hour day, 10 gallons an hour. And they had one or two new ones that were diesel electric. Well, they burned 27 gallons an hour. That's 2.7 times. Same hull, same design, same everything. Now, what we're asking for is a half hybrid. So where is that going to be? So to me, with 40% losses approximately through the charging cycle and burning diesel oil, I am very strongly doubting the numbers that the Elliott Bay gave us. It just doesn't work out. When I went to using an efficient hull, which was a V hull, I came out with without, and I broke down the Whatcom Chief. I hit it within 2 gallons a day. This is the average schedule, not extended schedule, not extra runs. And when I went to, and I took a good, efficient 34 car ferry. There was a 6-power, one of them was powered by the 6-cylinder Caterpillar, which was a little small, and the other one was 12-cylinder. The two of them actually were within 5 gallons of another at about 150 to 150 gallons a day. We've got a problem here.
Jim, do you think you can have this information pulled together in a written report that we can share with the LIFAC members before the next meeting? So
I can try. I've got a bunch of stuff coming up.
Okay.
I've been asked by 2 council members to give a review of this, and it should be part of that. But this is when we hit these electric numbers, it was like a jaw dropper.
Okay.
And
well, but this is not something you're just giving us a heads up that you're getting more information and we can discuss it in more depth at the next meeting when you have it synthesized, correct?
Well, that's gonna, I don't know if I can do it by then, but because this is a tremendous, this is like 30, 40 hours of work. This is what I'm getting you on here is that the members of this committee need to be looking into this and not telling what the designers are handing us, because we're liable to come out very sorry on the back end here. And that's what we're for.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you loud and strong. And let's put together, let's try to synthesize this information in a meaningful way to send forward, because we are an advisory committee and that's our job. So I'm going to talk to you after the meeting. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Jim. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll see what's our next step.
All I'm saying is the hull design between this one and the one in Texas are very, very, very similar. And
Roland, you are just, so you're aware of this new information that is concerning to Jim. Okay. I'd
Yeah,
like to move on to.
I'm not the person I'm not the person to address any of those. I'm not part of the design team at all or anything else. That would be up to
Okay,
Liz and
who
Rick.
is the right person? Who is the contact for that?
That would be Liz Cosa.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And can you give her a heads up that this came up in the meeting?
I will.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I would like to mention quickly for Jim, Elliott Bay is not Liz's favorite. So, you know, there's no favoritism going on, just so you know. Liz is a pretty strong individual and cares deeply about making sure it's an efficient vessel.
well, the thing to me, it seems that the V hull, which is excellent seaboat, excellent. I mean, these go clear back to McKay and Herreshoff and all the designers of times past. It looks like to me like this is way more complicated.
All right, so noted. Thank you, Jim. I'm going to move on because we should be closing at the meeting, but I want to keep moving through the agenda and touch base next with Mike to say
I'm not hearing you.
we have all seen the names that Roland's staff put together for us. And you have that. I'm sorry, what? Ask you to give us a report on what you think the next steps are on the ferry naming project.
Okay, but I want to go back to the previous item just for a moment, which is we didn't get to, which is the LIFAC template letters for the congressional delegates. And just say this, and then I'll follow up later by email with all of you. But the good news is that the community website created by LICA has created a specific landing page for anything and all things that LIFAC wants to report on that site. And I'm working with Alan Crum to, he's building some forms in which we will put content, and I'll send you the suggested comments for these delegates. You give me feedback and we'll put it in that form, and then people can just go click, and send all over the place, both orally and written. So that's good news.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you mean orally, if it's a website?
Well, for instance, I think I reported last month that Senator Murray, you go to her website and they've got a link that you can go on and speak and tell them something.
Oh, I see. You mean for islanders, instead of writing, to give oral testimony of a kind?
Yeah, requests. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's just, dozens of ways to communicate with her, and some of them haven't responded. But anyway, the good news is that we have a dedicated page that we can put those on for each of the reps, and people can go to it and very simply send out a letter contact.
When will that be in operation, Mike?
Pardon me?
When will that go into operation?
He told me ASAP. So I don't know with Alan. He's got 10,000 things on his plate, but
you will be emailing us the templates to comment or tinker with? Yeah,
I really love input from each of you on what you think should be said in all of those, but I have an outline of all four of them.
But you'll send those to us within the next couple of days?
Yes, by the weekend.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right. Related to that is the next item that you asked about, the ferry naming initiative, and I emailed you all I revised the original recommendations that I had whenever back when, and put what I believe should happen. And I think it'd be fun. It'll be a great interactive marketing tool. And that is that LIFAC gathers suggestions from 5 sources. And we're one of those 5. And the other is public, which we've already done. The only discussion there is whether we want to do another round with the public or not, which we could do on that web page. The other sources is I'd like to hear name suggestions coming from the ferry crew and from Public Works. And then, of course, the county council and executive would have leeway to present any suggestions they have. Now, a semantical thing is I'm using the word suggestions because when I ran this by Roland last week, he said, we don't have a Public Works, we wouldn't have any recommendations. That's up to you. So they're not recommendations, they're suggestions. And I told him, and then he went, oh yeah, sure. Because I'd love to know an idea too that Liz Koza might have. She's been running ferries for 100 years. The ferry crew itself, I think it would be fun to see if any of them had a name to put in the list. And then ultimately we'd gather all those in a basket and LIFAC would go through and then as we're supposed to, we forward again for discussion, you know, some number of those suggestions to the county council and executive.
I have no, I like your path forward. Are there other comments from other LIFAC members on the, you shared a document, an updated document on next steps on naming, correct, Mike? And did everybody get that?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah. Any comments on that? I like the direction. Are there any other comments to make Mike aware of on this project?
I think that, first of all, Mike, thank you for doing all of this. You say here the rules not by popular vote, final decision rests with county council and executive. And I think you're right that it is it's their vote. So we can basically suggest the slate of names. I would suggest when we get to a short list that somebody, and maybe Roland, you can advise on this, just informally talk with the Lummi Nation if there are any names that they would not like to have on the boat, or in some diplomatic way, give them a chance to have an opinion and, you know, that will be taken seriously. But Roland, you're going to say something.
Yeah, as the tribal liaison from Public Works to the Lummi Nation and Nooksack tribe, as you suggested, that should be sent to Lena So, who's cultural department for the Lummi Nation. And I think it should be from LIFAC to them. I can certainly follow up with a phone call or an email, but from nation to nation, it goes from the highest level to that level. Would be appropriate. And what I may think as honoring, they may seem as patronizing. So it's just very important. They can only speak for themselves. No one else can speak for them. Just like I can give you my opinion about me, but I cannot give you my opinion for them. So I would highly recommend doing that.
I've reached out through a friend at LIBC to see if she could get me a meeting with Lena, correct? Is that her name, Lena, right?
Lena, yes.
For that very reason, I wanted to use a friend to get me in the door, so it wouldn't be quite so officious, I guess.
But I want to echo what Roland said. Yeah, make sure you consult with the tribes. But as this being a legislative vote, I mean, I don't know. Council doesn't normally vote on what we name bridges and such. And I don't know in the state legislature if they vote on naming the state ferries. That might be something the executive can lay control over.
Councilmember Donovan, I think you're too late. The executive and Public Works have already jumped in and said this is a council decision.
Nobody wants to. Okay, we're going to be responsible. Okay, then definitely consult the tribes and don't.
we'll make sure that you're presented with some good suggestions. So Todd.
Not Bodie McBoatface.
I said in my email today to repeat that anecdote because it just cracks me up every time I hear it. But
That's why you don't do a popular.
that thing that you referred to, Charles, and it was in the original thing, is that we absolutely emphasized over and over and over again that the public would not name the ferry, that everybody's welcome to suggest, and that's why that's in there. Bodie McBoatface, I love it. And so yeah,
Ferndale.
and actually I got some
Government.
flack from a couple of people about why shouldn't the public name it? We know more about it than anybody else. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay.
Ferndale did a public comment thing to name some of their snow plows because I guess Scotland was doing this with their public works folks, but it was done in Scotland by the public works folks. And I won't say publicly what won in Ferndale, and their public information officers making sure that that is not public.
Ah, okay.
It involved
Rayma heard of a cute one in New York City that was named by an elementary school.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, they named the ferry the Tooth Fairy.
Ah,
So,
She also pointed out that system has
careful what you
48
wish for,
ferries
yeah.
in it.
but that raises a nice point. Maybe you want to add the beach school to your list of places where we seek suggestions.
We could do that. We could get their
I think that
suggestions.
would be fun.
Mhm.
So, Mike, you've got some good suggestions here. I'd love to talk with you further about it tomorrow, but any other comments for Mike as he moves this naming process forward?
Yeah, what's the next step?
The next step is if you just give me permission, we'll all get the word out to these 4 sources. Do you want to do another round with the public, or do we have enough from them?
I do. I personally do want to do one more round, do a very limited time, but close it down by November 15th or something at the latest, and or even November 1st. Do a quick round.
Well, Roland, correct me if I'm wrong. When we spoke about this recently, you said it's, you and I agree on one thing, is once it has a name, now it's a reality. It's a real thing we're talking about. It'd be like me saying I need a scholarship for my grandkid instead of saying for Mason. But you also stressed that it's not like urgent front burner. Isn't that correct?
Right, yeah, it would benefit us because we're funding a specific named vessel, but there is no deadline until we ask the Coast Guard to certify the hull, and then it has to be named. But until then, and so we've got literally years, but we don't want to wait till years to do this. It's important.
I'll move forward on it, Charles, and email you all about.
Okay, on the public, I agree with Rayma. We should have another round with anyone, and maybe the website, the LIFAC website, is the place to do that, because we'll be telling people to go there for the template letters. They can go there and up until, say, November 15th, suggest names.
I love it. Yes.
Because then it's all one-stop service. And then the only challenge is how to let everyone know that these things are on the website. But that's a question I'm sure you've thought about.
I do welcome this, since LIFAC does not have its own website. So if we can start really populating, there's a whole lot of information on the Public Works website, but Mike, to get us going on this, our Lummi Island website is huge. So thank you for moving that forward. Okay.
Yeah, it was good to do that. Thank you. Judy, you feel
Thank
okay
you,
about
Mike.
that?
I want to thank Mike for working on this, and for y'all for doing this. I got to get off Zoom.
Yeah.
Thank
Todd,
you.
my only
Thank you,
question-
Todd.
I'm leaving early. So.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Thanks for your
Todd,
advice.
my only
We'll be
question
in
is,
touch.
can I send you the request that I have for the council to chime in with some names?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And I've said this before. I think I'm a baseball fan, so I'm superstitious. I've been accused of being superstitious. So like naming something before we have the money, but I'll defer to Roland on if it helps. Like, let's do that. But that's where I am.
Okay.
All right, good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, Todd. Okay,
Thank
last
you.
item. Can we move on to public awareness and the tone deadline?
Yep.
Okay. And who, based on this meeting, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it this month, but Judy or Mike, can you pull together the tone deadline or the LIFAC submission for the tone due
Judy,
this
can you do
Friday?
that? I've gotten so many things on my plate. LIFAC and other stuff.
Yeah,
Just
Yep.
stuff.
You can? I appreciate that. Thank you very
Thank-
much.
Thank you.
Okay. We are running late here, running long. Any other items that we need to address before we close the meeting?
I just have one request. I believe you got a copy of the letter that Jerry Brown sent to me with regard to the surcharge.
I don't
No.
remember seeing it.
Yes.
Okay, he said he CC'd it to LIFAC, so
He did.
I will, I'll send it on, but I'm not proposing a change, but he is requesting a reconsideration of the surcharge. And he put together a pretty extensive formula on what he's proposing. So I will scan that and send it off to you so you have it. And it certainly needs at least some discussion, but it's up to you.
I read it thoroughly, and the only thought I have is that it's intended. I don't think he has the right context for the reason we recommended that. The context being that we wanted everyone to see that the islanders who live here and use the ferry the most have skin in the game.
I wholeheartedly agree. I wasn't agreeing with his.
Right, I get that.
But he is a member of the public who's requested this to be looked at. He said it to me as if I could wave a magic wand and change everything. And I explained to him at the farmer's market that it's the county council through LIFAC that fares and all of that. If you look at the charge of LIFAC, that's a part of it. And he just thinks that Public Works can just make it happen. And
That's what I think.
yeah, no.
Okay. All right. You know, I have not seen that letter. I've not read it. So if you can resend it, that'd be great. Thank you, Roland, for bringing that to our attention.
yeah, I'd definitely like to see it. I haven't seen it either.
Okay. Anything else to be aware of before we sign off here?
The minutes we're going to deal with as per
Yeah, my
Mike's
apologies. I'm
email.
halfway
No,
through.
we understand you've been doing so many other things. But in order, particularly given the complexity of the dry dock discussion, if we can move ahead and get this meeting's minutes out so that we can, I'm thinking of people are asking me questions about this. And particularly since it was pointed out earlier that this apparently the question of spring versus fall was attracted, over 200 responses or votes on Nextdoor. I think that we need to have, get on, make sure that we understand this in writing so we can respond as needed. So I'm happy to help Mike if you send a draft and, we'll get it out.
Thank you.
I'm looking at it on the screen. It's
I mean, the draft of this meeting, these minutes. Right.
Okay. All right. Well, we do need to get those out as soon as possible and get them approved. I'm sure they'll be close to perfect, but
well, I did attach, I don't know if you all got it, but I attached the video because that's really the minutes except the minutes are not nearly as long as the video.
well, I guess I missed that. I'm sorry. But we do need to approve them in order to forward them to Jill and get them posted.
I understand.
All right. All right. So that's on the to-do list. Any other items to finish up with here? If that is all, the meeting is over. And thank you very much, everybody, for chiming in and doing your part to make it an effective advisory council. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome home.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.